Today on Growing Bolder, preserving the thoughts, the words, the stories, the mannerisms of loved ones for generations to come.
I was sitting with my aunt, and she was telling me stories about World War II and walking amongst the rubble after a bombing raid. And I suddenly remembered this camera sitting in my suitcase upstairs in the bedroom. So I ran up and I got it, put it on the coffee table and said, "Start again, tell me everything." And then I took it to my grandmother's house down in the south of England and did the same thing with her. And then within a couple of years, both of them had passed away, and I was at their funerals. And I realized that I was the only person who had a video recording of these two people.
The powerful, life-changing lesson one man learned, and his mission to prevent others from making the same mistake that he did with his own family. And with 11 gold and 5 platinum albums, Jethro Tull has guaranteed a permanent place in rock and roll history. Growing Bolder's Bill Schaefer has a rare, extended conversation with the always outspoken Ian Anderson, now on Growing Bolder.
Hey, sitting on the park bench, fine little girls with
What's most important to you? What really matters? Remember when you thought the future was filled with limitless possibility? It still is. Dreams don't have an expiration date. It's not too late to find your purpose, to live with passion, to make an impact in the lives of others and in the world we live in. Stop growing older and start growing bolder.
Support for Growing Bolder provided by
If you're feeling good, it's all I need to know. You lock me up, will you lock me up? Tell me how you feeling tonight. Tell me how you feeling tonight.
Hi and welcome to Growing Bolder. I'm Mark Middleton. You know, there has never been a greater interest in genealogy. It's now a billion-dollar industry that has spawned websites, television shows, books, and DNA ancestry testing. We're fascinated to understand where we came from and what our ancestors were like. Jim Hobart didn't only want to connect with his aging relatives, he wanted to remember everything about them through more than just an old photo or a drawing of a family tree. He wanted to remember their voices, their movements, their daily passions. The result is his Legacy Life project.
Right there, I love it.
Jim Hobart got a job as a photojournalist for a local newspaper right out of high school. After decades shooting film, he bought a state-of-the-art digital camera and launched Macbeth Studio in 2006.
We shot stills for the first 5 years of being in business as Macbeth, and gradually over time, the camera's video capabilities continued to be improved with each generation of camera.
Jim was shooting stills, but thinking video. He had been for almost 2 decades, ever since he took a borrowed Handycam to England to visit relatives.
And I was sitting with my aunt, and she was telling me stories about World War II and walking amongst the rubble after a bombing raid. And I suddenly remembered this camera sitting in my suitcase upstairs in the bedroom. So I ran up and I got it, put it on the coffee table and said, "Start again, tell me everything." And then I took it to my grandmother's house down in the south of England and did the same thing with her. And then within a couple of years, both of them had passed away, and I was at their funerals. And I realized that I was the only person who had a video recording of these two people. What are we having here, Glenn? What are we making here? Is this our cottage pie?
Cottage pie, yeah.
Splendid.
His spur-of-the-moment home videos instantly became priceless family treasures.
Fantastic.
He had the only documentation of how these beloved relatives spoke and how they moved. He had, in their words, captured their dreams, their fears, their regrets, and the love that they felt for family and friends.
And ever since then, I've been thinking, I need to capture the stories of my relatives and my friends, and because you just don't know. When I spoke to those two people, they were both perfectly healthy, vibrant, vivacious, and life happens fast.
But as it always does, life intervened. Jim got busy and thought he still had plenty of time until last Thanksgiving Day.
my mom called me and said, "Your dad's had a seizure." It was the result of a brain tumor. And up to that point, he had been in perfectly good health as far as we knew. And then everything changed that one day.
Oh, there's Dad outside. There's some laundry on the line.
I was beating myself up. I had huge regret. I was kicking myself for procrastinating and missing my chance to sit down with my dad and do his story.
Born of regret and fueled by a passion to help others not make the same mistake, the Legacy Life Project was launched in honor of Nick Hobart to share the extraordinary stories of ordinary people.
Everybody has a story. You don't have to be a famous person or a great inventor or a great explorer or a great athlete. Every single mom and dad and uncle and aunt and grandparent out there has an interesting story.
And the best person to elicit that story is almost never a relative, but rather a well-prepared, inquisitive interviewer skilled at asking the kinds of questions that evoke interesting, emotional, and revealing responses.
And I realized that as an outside observer coming in with a list of questions to ask without the children around, you get a much more unvarnished and complete story. Not only have we got the complete stories that they knew about, but in almost every case, we've uncovered stories that the person who hired us to go shoot didn't even know.
Jim conducts the interviews, and lead videographer Morgan Walker does the editing.
It is so gratifying. I mean, kind of in a selfish way, it just feels really good to be able to make someone so happy and thankful.
Well, first of all, I was number 6 of 8 children. And I was born in Bradford, England, and I've lived in the United States since '63.
Revealing interviews are the heart and soul of these videos.
I won't make it weak, but I don't like it too strong. Okay.
But capturing their subjects engaged in ordinary, everyday activities helps the Legacy Life Project team elevate their work to profoundly personal documentaries of a life well lived.
He sent me a card, beautiful cards. I received 650 of those cards.
Say I do and make it last.
Yeah, I do and make it last.
Make it last.
I can speak from experience that the ordinary stuff is the stuff you miss. So we get a lot of, maybe grandma's making coffee, or dad's out watering his roses, or flipping through a photo album and reminiscing, or sitting in a favorite chair.
People don't even think about this until they see it and they're like, oh my gosh, like this, I need this. This is amazing. I can't think of anything else that would be, it's priceless.
We have delivered these finished videos, and the children and the grandchildren have, openly wept and thanked us.
Life is fleeting and it goes by fast, and I think for a lot of people what's important is family and knowing where they came from.
Jim Hobart will never get over the regret of not interviewing his father when he had the chance, of not capturing on video the unique idiosyncrasies that made him who he was. But he's doing everything he can to help others not make the same mistake.
You just never know. That's the point of this, is you just never know how long you have with people. So don't wait, because by the time you find out, it's often too late.
Jim Hobart isn't the only one that's digging into or trying to preserve his family's past. Genealogy is a worldwide phenomenon because, as we're learning, we're all really just one big family. And as Wendy Chioji reminds us, the stories of our ancestors intersect in interesting and sometimes remarkable ways.
So who is this?
My grandmother.
Your grandmother.
Millions of people all across the world are tapping into the internet and technology to climb higher into their family trees.
Alex Haley, who authored Roots, said that there's a hunger marrow deep to know who you are and where you come from, and we absolutely see that in people of all ages, but especially in the baby boomer generation.
When we were with the Thatchers in West Virginia, this is what we were looking at.
Online research tools can make the search process easier. They look through census, military, and vital records to track down everything from birth certificates to property ownership papers.
It's grown by leaps and bounds. Family history has changed so much. Today we have 5 billion historical records on Ancestry.com, so you can find so much about your ancestors in the United States, over in Europe, Australia, even Chinese records.
And it's about much more than tracking a paper trail for people like Joni Sherm, who unlocked a mystery about her grandparents' tragic journey during the Holocaust. It's a key to discovering the never-before-shared stories.
I really encourage everybody, if your parents are alive or uncles or aunts that can bring history to you, use the modern technology, use the video, flip cameras now that are so easy, use your own camera, use your audio, use your computer, go do it, because it's all going to go away, and it's history that we all need to capture for generations.
So, what can you do to discover and share your family's story? Here are 4 quick takeaways. Start interviewing. Use the video camera on your phone to ask your aging relatives big questions like the meaning of life, and small ones like their favorite food. Ask them about their parents and grandparents. They are your last direct link to the stories of your ancestors. Back up everything to the cloud. Apple iCloud, Dropbox, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and others all offer free or inexpensive storage. Create a family website or start a private group on Facebook where family members can share photos, stories, and videos, helping preserve the legacy of your family. Digitize all old home movies and photos because they are deteriorating every day. There are apps for your phone to scan photos and many local and online services to digitize your home movies.
Can I have my mommy my favorite hug?
While preserving the memories of our older relatives is important, caring for them is a growing responsibility for millions.
Want to take a walk with me? Gotcha.
In fact, we're now facing a demographic dilemma, a rapidly increasing number of older people requiring care and fewer younger people able or willing to provide that care. 45 million Americans are now providing unpaid care for an adult. The typical caregiver is a 46-year-old woman who has a job and also spends 18 hours a week providing care. Studies reveal that an alarming 91% of family caregivers are suffering from depression and acute stress. Here's Growing Bolder contributing expert Amy O'Rourke.
I think that kids put pressure on themselves to be perfect, to do everything right, and then they tell themselves this lie that once they get their parents situated, it won't be stressful anymore. And that's really not true. That you have to kind of get yourself emotionally ready for the number of years that it takes to get used to caring for a parent, just as you would a child. It's a different kind of stress, but you have to get your system adjusted to the daily phone calls, the weekly visits, the can't balance the checkbook, they can't pick up the mail, they're not eating right, all these things that happen. And I would also say to the kids that lowering their expectations would be really helpful. That they set the bar so high that they're going to be this great champion of their parents and that the parents are going to behave well, and to lower that a little bit and say, I'm just going to be with my parent and it's going to be messy, and that's really okay.
Of all of the rock stars of the 70s, one of the most unforgettable was Ian Anderson. The wild hair, the bulging eyes. Playing his flute up on one leg, he would transform into the very face of the band Jethro Tull. Well, the wild hair is gone now, but he's still as compelling as ever. And sitting down with Anderson is always memorable, especially when the topic turns to something he's been fascinated by since Jethro Tull's very beginning: age.
Well, I thought I went there right at the beginning of my musical career, because the very first Jethro Tull album had us depicted on the front cover as old men. And I just thought it was rather fun to call the album This Was Jethro Tull, as if it was all something, a piece of history. And that made a little impact with people, because it was unusual for a record to be presented in that way. So yes, I went there early on, and then of course the first big selling single that we released in England was called Living in the Past, which was about as unfashionable as you can be. And then in 1975 there was a track called Too Old to Rock and Roll, Too Young to Die, which wasn't necessarily addressing age specifically, but more in the context of being out of time, out of fashion. It's not a taboo subject, and it's one that I think can play its part in any interview or any song that you might care to write, as long as you don't keep going on and on about it as if it's the only thing you have to talk about.
How cool is life at 70?
Well, it's not that different to how it was at 69 and hopefully 71. But at the age of 70, I think we can assume many of us have had a brush or two with death, one way or another, and it's, overall, I suppose, we live in a world where we can choose to some degree to be healthy, and with a little bit of luck on our side, we can remain relatively healthy for longer than perhaps my parents' generation. So no, I never tried smoking marijuana or taking any of the things that you call drugs because everybody else did. It seems so, so dreary. I mean, the thing is, if you're around people who are doing all that stuff, as I was from my art school years onwards, you just see people making awful fools of themselves and becoming even interesting, nice people that you know. You just don't want to stay in the room with them once they're on that level because they're not the people you know anymore. They're kind of goofing off into cloud cuckoo land, and I just found it, difficult, which unfortunately had the effect of marginalizing me from my peers. So I'm flattered to have been invited to one or two Led Zeppelin parties, but I can only be apologetic that I was unable to go, that I had to be washing my hair that night, which was then a plausible excuse.
The mist rolls off the beaches, the train rolls into the station.
Primarily I'm an observer, and that comes from going to art school, like so many of my peers from the world of British music. We all went to art school. Hardly anybody went to music college. We all went to art school. And the list, the who's who of the great and the good in British pop and rock music over the years, we all went to art school. Why? I don't know. Somebody ought to write a book about it, but it was a breeding ground, I suppose, for the idea of creativity and the idea that music was a more immediate form of presenting that creative side of your personality, should you have one.
Do you get the same joy that we do? I was just thinking, listening to you, what a gift you've given us. With your music.
It's not a gift, you did have to pay for it.
Yes, not anymore.
Not anymore, that's very true. These days it is a gift, that's right.
Do you ever get the chance to go, damn, that was good, I did good, I was different than everybody else, I chose my own path, I went my own way, and look where I am, still here.
I think that the sense of being kind of a little bit out there on the edge of it all rather than being in the mainstream is something that I do enjoy. But that's just a naughty pleasure you take from having joined the system without really being a fully paid up member. So, you have little moments where you're, you are within that sort of mainstream of being a minor public figure that people might know who you are, they see you on TV or something, but you're not really so prominent that life becomes unbearable. And I think that is really rather a nice place to be, and perhaps some people, including my ex-manager or record company people, might think, why would he not want to go and play arenas and stadiums all the time? Or why wouldn't he want to continue to try and be where Elton John is today, or Rod Stewart or somebody? Why wouldn't you want to do that? Well, I don't particularly want to go into all the reasons why, but I'm just not made that way.
And this makes most people our age start to think about legacy.
Yep.
What do you hope yours is?
It's all out there, you know, whether it's a Wikipedia entry or, you know, who was Grandad again? Oh, I don't know, let's ask Mr. Google. You know, it's all out there. So these days, you know, your legacy, if you like, is in the public domain, free for everyone to see. You don't have to worry, you don't need a very big gravestone any longer. You just say, bye. Everything else you needed to say, it's already out there. You've made your records, you've done your things, you've done interviews, and it's all out there. So leaving a legacy of that, in that sense, is a very easy one. Again, the convenience of the technological age in which we live, we can leave a legacy that's far more personal and more intimate and more all-encompassing.
You've had an incredible seat at life. You haven't been a spectator, you've been a participant. What can we learn about what's important in life from what you've been through?
Well, I think what you take from life, in some way, you've got to try and give back. That's got to be the rule of the human species, the ethics of humanity is, you know, give back what you take. And
you sure have had an amazing journey. We're all given gifts.
Well, you know, I'm just another traveler along a crowded road. And if you pass me in the street, you would just think, oh, nice little old guy there, just you know, held the door open for me when I went in, or, you know, helped me across the road. And, you know, I'm just another guy on the street. Trust me, I am. I know my place.
Kind of get the feeling there that Ian Anderson will never just be another guy on the street. Great insights and lots of wisdom in just a few minutes. How about him admitting that he's never even tried drugs? Did you know that? Making the point that through our choices, we can affect our own health. He also said what we take from life, we should try to give back, the importance of making a difference for others. You know, Anderson is still out there touring, performing, and proving that it's true. You're never too old to rock and roll.
Have you heard about the health-wealth connection? The number one investment that we can all make beginning today that costs nothing and will provide the greatest rate of return in the years ahead is simply to improve our overall health, because future healthcare costs are the biggest threat to our financial futures.
89-year-old Ann Call runs year-round.
My health insurance is on my feet, my running shoes. That's it.
If it's too hot to run in the street, she runs in her pool and encourages friends to join her.
Anne is such a great motivator, and she just draws people into her circle.
She also illustrates original motivational fitness calendars that she gives for free to anyone who wants one. How can she live and give like this?
Because I don't owe anything. House is paid for, car is paid for. I'm solvent, totally solvent.
Never underestimate the health-wealth connection. The one investment guaranteed to pay the most dividends in the years ahead is improving your health and well-being.
If you stay active like Ann, if you do improve your overall health and well-being, you'll be ready for life's inevitable physical setbacks. Or as Growing Bolder Medical Director Dr. Robert Masson says, you'll be able to show up strong.
It's remarkably normal for your body to have failure points decade to decade as you grow older. And you know, there's a paradox. The more active you are, the more likely you're going to damage your body. On the other hand, the less active you are, the more likely your body will fail for lack of regenerative capability and strengthening and prevention and wellness. So it's the old adage of everything in moderation, but there's no question, in order to maintain an active lifestyle and a goal-oriented lifestyle decade to decade towards mid and later life, you have to earn it and you have to sustain it. You know, it's not so much about chronological age, it's about how you show up. And our mantra, show up strong, applies to this answer. You know, you take care of yourself, you give yourself the best fighting chance to celebrate your life, independent of your chronological age, you'll bounce back from your problems.
The global anti-aging market is now approaching $200 billion every year. Ageism has become a profitable business model. Countless companies are raising corporate profits by lowering our self-esteem. They're spending hundreds of millions of dollars to play upon our age-related fears and insecurities, to cultivate dissatisfaction and self-hate. They want us to believe, they need us to believe that wrinkles, gray hair, age spots, and crepey skin depreciate us like a beat-up old car that's an embarrassment to the entire neighborhood. In fact, they want me to believe that if I would only pay them to take hair from another part of my body and transplant it onto my head, I could become the lead singer in a rock band, and women, jobs, and happiness would all be mine. Self-acceptance is their enemy. In fact, it's the ruination of their business, and they'll stop at nothing to make us dissatisfied with ourselves through their sophisticated ageist advertising. There's nothing wrong with wanting to look our best, but we have to learn to be comfortable in our own skin, even as it ages. That's growing bolder. We'll see you next time.
Support for Growing Bolder provided by More information about all of the stories you've seen here today is available at growingbolder.com/TV. And you can get inspired to keep rebranding aging when you connect with the Growing Bolder community on Facebook.
Growing Bolder apparel is available for $25 plus shipping and handling. A companion book, Growing Bolder, Defy the Cult of Youth, Live with Passion and Purpose by Mark Middleton, is available as well for $25 plus shipping and handling. And you can subscribe to Growing Bolder magazine, 4 quarterly issues for $29.97 a year. Order online at growingbolder.com/TV.